Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 2018 host training for our first annual On the Table event. I am Sharice Arendale. I'm the Strategic Initiatives and Communications Manager at Central Carolina Community Foundation, and I have the honor and privilege of helping to plan this year's initiative. Today's training is intended to help you know everything that you need to be able to host a conversation on October 24th. So I hope you find it helpful and informative, but if not, and you still have questions at the end, we'll have some contact information for you to contact us and learn more. So what is On the Table? On the Table began with the Chicago Trust in 2014. They created a civic engagement initiative that brought people together to talk about their community and how it can be a better place. It was very successful. They now have over 50,000 people participate in their annual event. And because it was so successful, the Knight Foundation, which is a national foundation, decided to replicate the initiative in 10 communities across the nation last year. This included communities in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Georgia, Akron, Ohio, Charlotte, North Carolina, Miami, lots of different sizes of cities, but also some that are similar to Columbia. It was also, the On the Table initiative was also a great success in those cities last year, and so they decided to fund the initiative in Richland and Lexington counties here this year. So we are thrilled that they are able to bring the initiative here and that we're able to partner with them on that. And so thank you to the Knight Foundation for providing the funding for our event this year. What On the Table is we're going to bring people together across Richland and Lexington counties on Wednesday, October 24th, to gather over mealtime conversations and discuss how we can work together to make our community stronger. There's a really great quote by Margaret Wiltney, which you'll see on your screen. It says, "Very great change starts from very small conversations held among people who care." And this really is the essence of what we're trying to accomplish with On the Table. We want to bring people together to have them listen to each other, to have them learn from each other, and talk about our community, and within those conversations, inspire action and things that we can do to help make our community a better place. Hosting a conversation is easy. Anybody can host, businesses, nonprofits, individuals, families, schools, you name it, you can host a conversation. It's very easy. It's something that we all really do every day in our everyday lives, but in just a more organized fashion. And so if you decide to host, you'll have a 60 to 90-minute conversation with 6 to 12 participants on October 24th, 2018. The host of the conversation determines the guest list. You invite your guest. If you are having a larger conversation, you'll keep track of your own RSVPs. You also determine where and when the conversation will take place. This can happen anywhere that you want. It can happen in homes, restaurants, coffee shops, churches, businesses, anywhere that you can gather to talk. It can also happen any time of day on the 24th. So if you're an early bird, you can get up early in the morning and have breakfast. If you're a night owl, you can have a midnight snack. Conversations can be formal or informal. They can happen. We do ask that there be some sort of food involved with it because people tend to relax and talk a little freer when there's food that brings them together. But the food, again, doesn't have to be anything complicated. You can have a brown bag lunch, you can do a potluck, you can have it over breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, or a snack. It's up to you. If you'd like to host a larger conversation, so that would be 5 conversations of 6 to 12 people, you would be considered a super host. Now, a super host isn't much different than a regular host. The main difference is that you'll be hosting more conversations. You'll have more hosts and facilitators underneath your big umbrella to be able to have those small group conversations. And you'll be able to have your logo listed on our website. If you're interested in being a super host, you can contact the Community Foundation at onthetable@yourfoundation.org, and we'll help you with that. Now, the first step to becoming a host is to register, and this is a really important step because we need to get your contact information. This tells us that one, you're committed to hosting, and two, gives us your email address so we can start sending you tips and information about hosting. We won't spam your inboxes. We only send out about one email a week, and it might be a little more frequent around the event, but really we just want to be able to communicate with you about any tips that we have, reminders about what you need to do when you're having the conversation, those sort of things. So if you haven't registered to host yet, it's very easy. It's a short form. You go to onthetablecola.org and click the Register tab in the upper right-hand corner and fill out the form and submit to host. You will receive an email confirmation when you host. It's a welcome email. If you don't receive that email within 24 hours, we ask that you check your spam filter, and if it's not there, please email us and confirm that your registration went through. We also want to make hosting easy for you, so we've provided numerous resources that you have access to on our website on onthetablecola.org. If you are viewing this webinar, you probably have already seen this page, but just in case, there's lots of different toolkits on here. We have everything from our host toolkit. We have a youth conversation guide if you're including youth in your conversation and want to know how to talk with them. We have some specific questions for youth as well as a lesson plan for teachers included in that. We have a family discussion guide if you're looking to include your family in the discussion. And we've also translated our host toolkit into Spanish. So if you are a Spanish speaker, or if you know of a Spanish speaker, you can view the host toolkit in that way. We also have a physical host toolkit. And this toolkit can be picked up at the Community Foundation's office anytime before October 24th during our regular business hours, which are Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., and on Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Our address is 2711 Middleburg Drive, Suite 213, Columbia, South Carolina, 29204. And again, if you need to look that up or have any questions, let us know. But your host toolkit includes a number of different things that you can use to set your table, and it really is intended to give you the tools that you need to have a successful conversation. So this includes your host toolkit, we have some survey cards that you can pass out to your guests and remind them to take the survey. We have a prompt card that you can lay on the table or pass around to your guests and have them pick a question that has some sample questions to get your conversation started. We have a social media frame that you can cut out and use to post on social media and take some fun pictures. And, of course, some fun items like pens, coasters, cups, and little notebooks that each of your guests can write notes in during the conversation. And this is something that they can take home. They don't need to share their notes with us. But there is on the last page of that notebook an action page where we ask each of the guests to write down a couple of action ideas that they'll take from the conversation. And finally, you'll see a host instruction sheet. We're going to talk a little bit about what's on that sheet in the next few slides, but this will give you a guide for what you need to do during your conversation on October 24th. So again, if you want the physical toolkit, you can drop by the Community Foundation's office and pick yours up. So what are you going to do on October 24th? You've planned your conversation, you've invited your guests, you have your place picked, your food's ready to go. So when you get down to the actual conversation, what do you need to do? So this is your to-do list. The first thing we want you to do is to submit your guest information. We'll talk a little bit about why this is important on the next slide, but you'll do this by going to our website, onthetablecola.org/guestinfo, and you'll put in your guest names and email address. Then you'll have your conversation. We ask that you leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end of your conversation for participants to fill out the survey on their phones. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about the survey later on. We also ask that you have your guests record 2 action steps that they may want to take in those guest notebooks that they have, or just on a piece of paper. And this is something that you can use to follow up with your guests later on and ask, have you taken these steps? Is there something that we want to reconvene and do together? But it gives people a to-do list or something to follow up with the conversation, making it a little more meaningful. And then finally, we would love for you to share about your conversation or take a picture and share on social media with us using the hashtag #OnTheTableCola. So again, that first step, the guest information. So this is an important step for us because we want to be able to communicate with your guests about On the Table. Now again, we aren't going to spam your guests. We're only going to use their email address to send them a survey link so they have a reminder if they didn't take it at your actual conversation, and also information about the community report when it's released at the end of January. At a minimum, if you have guests that are uncomfortable giving out this information, please fill out the form and include with us a guest count so we can know how many people participated in our conversations on October 24th. If you're a superhost and you are over more than 5 tables, you can also email us your guest information in a spreadsheet, and you can email it to onthetable@yourfoundation.org. The form has spaces for 12 different people, but if you have more than 12 guests, you can resubmit the form more than one time and get us that information. But again, this is a very important step to take. You can do it either before your conversation or after your conversation, but please do capture this information. So the next step is having your conversation. So one of the most common questions we receive is, what do you talk about? We have some conversation prompts that are found in the host toolkit on page 7 that we encourage you to use to get your conversation started. You don't have to use all the prompts. In fact, other cities that have done On the Table have told us that it is rare that a table gets through all the prompts. Usually the conversation takes off naturally and organically, and you don't really need to be worried about getting through every single prompt. You can also talk about any topic that you want. So if there's something in particular that you really want to learn about or that you want to engage people in a conversation about, you can have a discussion around that. And finally, we just encourage you to trust the table. So trust the fact that the conversation is going to flow organically. People love to talk. They do this all the time, and once you get them started, I think you'll find that it will be hard to stop. So we ask that you trust the table and the topics that come up and just let it be an organic conversation. Some other tips to help you with your conversation. When you start, it's always a good idea to introduce yourself. So share your name, your background, why you decided to be a host, and invite your guests to introduce themselves as well, especially if they're in a conversation where people may not know each other as well. Some things to do is we encourage you to listen and understand without judgment or criticism of others. Encourage everyone to participate. Invite guests to follow up and expand on ideas. So if somebody says something, ask them, I'd like to learn more about that. Can you expand on that? Share your story in videos and photos on social media using On the Table Cola. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call the Community Foundation. We will be at the office on October 24th and happy to answer any questions you have, or if you have any questions leading up to the 24th. And we also ask that you don't allow one person to dominate the question. And if that's happening, you can say things like, oh, let's hear from so-and-so, or we'll come back to you, we're going to hear from some other people first. We also ask that you don't micromanage the conversation. Again, let it flow freely, let it be an organic conversation. Don't promote any arguments or unproductive debates. If you find that that's beginning to happen, try to adjust the conversation and say, let's talk about this or something else, or that's a really good point, but let's not have any debates here. This is also a good thing. You can set these little tips at the beginning of your conversation to set expectations and say, let's agree before we have our conversation that these are some things that we're going to do and not do during today's conversation. Again, we also ask that you don't make any campaign speeches or promote political agendas, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So after you have the conversation, we encourage you, as I mentioned before, to spend 10 to 15 minutes to take time to have people take the survey. The survey is really important because this will be the way that we get feedback at the Community Foundation about what your conversation was about, what the how people feel about at your conversation. And so we are working with a national research firm out of Washington, D.C. called Hart Research and Public Opinion Strategies. They will compile the survey results for us and will share it with us, and then we will in turn share a report with the community and also with key decision makers across our community. So elected officials, people who are controlling budgets, other funders in the community, and community leaders will receive this information. People can access the survey in 3 different ways. So they can text on their phone, and we encourage you to just ask your attendees to take out their phone, text OTT-CCCF to 797979, and they'll receive a link to their survey that they can take before they leave on October 24th. There will also be a link posted on our website on thetablecola.org. And if you submit your guest information, which again we encourage you to do, then we'll send a web link to all the participants over their email, so that way they also have the link that way. The survey will be translated into Spanish, so it'll be available in both English and Spanish. It'll be open for about 2 weeks, but the earlier you complete it, the better. I think we're all very busy, and it's easy to forget to do something like this, so the sooner you can complete it, the better. And we did also want to note that youth under 18 are unfortunately not able to participate in our survey this year due to the legalities of surveying youth, but we do still encourage youth to participate in conversations, to host their own conversations, and then share their stories with the Community Foundation so we can capture their voice as well. And finally, we encourage you to, again, use social media. So on the screen you see our Facebook handle, our Twitter handle, and our Instagram handle. We're on all 3 of those platforms. I would love to see you using our hashtag on the Table Cola so we can hear about your conversations and share with you. So that is all we have for today with our host training. Again, if you have any questions that weren't answered in this short video, then please feel free to contact us. You can email us at onthetable@yourfoundation.org. You can call us at 803-254-5601. But thank you all again for your interest in hosting, for being willing to host a conversation. We are thrilled to have you along with this for this first year of this initiative, and we can't wait to hear your voice and your guest voice. Thank you very much.